Loading. Okay,
Yeah.
kia ora koutou. We are live. Happy Friday.
Not that the
So
days
kia
of the
ora
week
everyone.
matter at the
I'm here
moment.
with Shane Way. Yeah, true. True. Just another day in the bubble. Hey, look, kia ora Shane. Thank you so much for jumping on and having this conversation. For everyone tuning in, this is Shane Way from Shane's Way, and we're going to be talking about mental health and addiction today, and a conversation that could be a tough one. There's going to be some tough stuff that we talk about, but our intention today is really around providing some hope, some reassurance, some self-care ideas, and to just really empower you with some insights to support not only yourself but your whānau as well, who may be experiencing some distress at this time. So if you're jumping on the call, drop a comment, let us know that you're here. If you have questions about mental health or addiction or well-being, feel free to drop them in the comments and we will do our best to answer your questions as we go. So kia ora, Shane, how are you?
Kia ora, Jem. Thank you for having me. Today, I'm good. Today's been a good day, and I'll take that win. I will definitely take that win. How about yourself?
Today, the moon's changed this week, and so I have really felt that and been called to rest. I haven't been able to go as fast, and I've been kind of frustrated with that. So there might have been an emotional breakdown last night. I picked myself back up though today, and we are moving on and just surrendering to the fact that it's okay to slow down and it's okay to rest. I'm really keen to hear though, what made today a good day for you?
Well, I think first and foremost, similar to you, I had my little breakdown this week. Difference was mine was a couple of days ago, not last night. But I think today was the first day I suppose I felt alive again and I felt human, and I've just been able to feel like I'm functioning properly on a level that I haven't felt like I've been on for quite some time. So that has just been a really nice feeling, and just being able to kind of enjoy moments today and take time to appreciate them has been really good.
Wow. And sometimes that's such a like polar opposite to the other days, right? Yeah. So I can really resonate with that.
It's kind of like, it's like waking up from a nightmare almost. Like it's that day where you're just like, oh, this feels so much better. And it's like all this anxiety and stress and these horrible feelings lift, and you're just like, what was that? Who was that? Like, what is going on here? Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful. And I so hope that we can dive into that in this conversation and hear a little bit more about that transformation and what set you up for that transformation too. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling some darkness, and some people are coping really well, and that's okay too. I think I just wanted to start this conversation and let everyone know that whatever is true and right for you is totally good. You know, if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. There's other people feeling overwhelmed too. If you're feeling like on top of the world, full of creative energy and seeing all the possibilities, power to you. And that's okay as well. We're not here to have a conversation that sets the scene on what everyone should be feeling. The purpose of jumping on today is to have a conversation with a different perspective. So let's jump into it, Shane. Tell us a little bit about your mahi with Shane's Way.
So at the moment, it's a big question mark, to be honest. Being mostly self-employed during the COVID-19 pandemic has meant a lot of my work has dried up. But when things were normal, let's go with that. So first and foremost, I'm a wellbeing coach, which I absolutely love doing. So that involves a lot of work with clients and helping them to work through whatever they feel is holding them back and help them find the best version of themselves. And then I'm also a personal trainer and massage therapist, so that's part of my business. I also run therapeutic programs for the Waikato District Health Board across all the mental health wards, and I'm also a part-time teacher at Wintec, teaching business at the Centre for Sports Science and Human Performance. So just a couple of things, yeah.
Whoa.
I like to keep busy.
Yeah, you do. And when we met, I was actually trying to reflect on this. When did we meet? It would have been a couple of years ago now. What hat were you wearing?
When I met you was when you invited me to speak at one of the Awesome Said Waikato events, which was Finding Unity in Diversity. So that's when I was speaking on behalf of Waikato Queer Youth, shout out to Wacky, and doing a little bit of education around that. And then since then, this beautiful friendship has flourished.
Oh, so cool. It's so cool to reflect on how our paths crossed and how similar and different some of our own experiences have been in recovering from addiction and experiencing chronic mental health issues. So I am always cheering you on and so proud of you and all the progress you make. Even when you fall, you pick yourself back up, and that's so inspiring. So I want to jump into mental health, and it's obviously something you specialize in, and I want to know what has that been like for you during this adahui? Let's call it adahui.
So for me, going into the adahui, I put a lot of pressure on myself in regards to my social media content, because I was like, this is what I do. I support people when things aren't okay. So first week was great. I was doing my absolute best to put as much content out there to try and support people and let them know it's okay to not be okay, and give advice and tips. And then it just started to fall by the wayside, kind of week 2. And then just day after day, my mental health really, really deteriorated, to the point where I don't mean it to sound like some tragic movie, but I did find myself like sitting on the floor of the shower on the weekend after I'd cut all my hair off, just bawling and not really having a reason why. And I think for me, a huge part of it, I think when we look at mental health, there's layers to it. And as we layer more and more on, that's when the situation gets harder to deal with or harder to control. So that first kind of, I suppose, the first level was the stress, obviously, like the isolation, it's affecting my income, my work. You know, it's made a huge change into my daily lifestyle. So there was stress around that. That then heightened my anxiety, which I live with every day, but normally have quite good control over in regards to looking after it myself and not letting it overwhelm me. But that got really heightened as well, which obviously resulted. So then that next layer was like that lack of sleep, that waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and not knowing why, and then not being able to get back to sleep. And as we know, when we're not getting sleep and we're anxious and we're stressed, it's really not good for our mental state. And then from that, I kind of went into what I'd call a depressive episode, because I've had depression in the past, clinical depression, and it's something I spent years overcoming. Now, if it does happen, it's not very often, and I call it a depressive episode because I know that I have the tools and keys to get out of it. But at the time, it doesn't make it any more enjoyable. And then that just kind of put me in this space of feeling completely overwhelmed, and I honestly was just in that headspace going like, what am I doing? My life's a mess. I don't really know where I'm going anymore. And to the point that Monday, Tuesday this week, I couldn't even get out of bed. I just was done. I was just lying there, and there was just no motivation, and I had heaps of stuff to do. I have heaps of work I'm behind on. It's not like it was like, oh, I can have a day off. But it was just this absolute lack of energy, and there was just no drive, no will to do anything. And I know for yourself as well, something I think that's made us quite close is like you've had your battles with mental health in the past as well. How have you obviously found the last month being at home and being a mum? Like, how's it been for you?
Shane, big stuff. I like can so resonate with some of these experiences that you're sharing. I think the first week for me was really like, it's all good, everything's all right, I'll just keep it together and keep going. And my husband was doing IT, setting up things for civil defense, and was in and out. And Malachi's usually in daycare a couple of days a week. And so I'm now meant to be doing 32 hours a week and being the mum. And like, I call like my own well-being a project, because it is something I actively have to invest time, energy, effort, and money into to look after. I can't just kind of float through things. And so I was kind of like, oh my goodness, how am I going to manage my own well-being, being a mum, and work? And I mean, work's super supportive. If I had said like, oh, like I really need to take a step back, everyone would have been like, okay, that's fine, Jem. But I have such high expectations for myself, and I know you do as well. And that really is like the reason, like the expectations that we set are definitely at times the reason for my distress. And so that first week was like a roller coaster, because I couldn't do it all. Something had to go. The second week was like, okay, I'm feeling really energized by the possibilities, and I think Seed could really do something to make a meaningful difference at this time by using our platform to tell stories and to share tools and insights. So then I got organized with our volunteers, and we made this digital wellbeing plan to support our community. And that was awesome. And then it kind of has been day by day from there, just like checking in with myself and being really aware that I do need to prioritize my wellbeing tools before I start a day. And that sometimes I just have been ignoring that. Like, I need to have a dance party once a day. I need to do breath work. I need to journal. I need to go and ground myself in nature. Like, there's all these things that I do that usually support me to be really strong. But I've kind of been neglecting them. And I think that's what influenced like my big emotional breakdown yesterday, in all honesty, was just like you were saying, these stacks of like, okay, I can't leave the house, I've got to be here. There's no one else that can look after my son except for me and my husband, and it's overwhelming. I have this purpose and mission with Seed to try and you know, like, I feel so called and energized and inspired by what we do, but there's so much going on, and just feeling utterly overwhelmed. So I think it's just gone through different cycles, and just kind of learning to surrender to it. But when I don't surrender and when I fight it, that's when things get worse. I wonder, has that happened for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what you just said like really resonated with me, especially around, I suppose, for starters, that pressure we put on ourselves and those expectations. They're dangerous. Like, they are bad, and it's something we both need to work on moving forward in. And for me as well, my role at WinTech, I teach 6 hours a week. I have one paper, like, it's a small role. Since we've gone into lockdown, I have 59 students, and I know when I was a student how hard it was, let alone then having to step up and go into lockdown. So on top of me having severe anxiety, not sleeping, and being in this major depressive mode, I've also been putting my absolute heart and soul into my students. Last week alone, I did 48 one-to-one Zoom sessions just to check in with my students and see how they are and how I could help them with their work. And when I was on those video chats, I was all like, hi, how are you going? Like, you know, and that once again is draining, because it's like, and I was just thinking, I was like, I'm being so fake. I'm not being authentic. I'm pretending I'm great, when the fact is, as soon as I get off this call, I'm probably going to have another cry. And so it really, I think this week, because it's the second week of their holiday and I didn't have anything booked in, it's given me a few more moments to kind of check in with myself. And I think that's why I crashed, but also why I was able to pick myself back up, is because I've had that time to go, hang on a minute, A, you're not okay. B, here's the things you need to do to look after yourself. Let's have a look at how many of those things you're doing. And, oh, none of them? Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's hard. Like, when you talk to that that real heart and that pure intention of wanting to check in with your students as well, what comes to mind for me is like the martyr, the role that we can sometimes play as the martyr, where we'll self-sacrifice so much in the pursuit of good or good intentions for other people, but not realize that we've done harm to ourselves in that process. And it's just a real journey, I think, at times of just trying to figure out what is my non-negotiable self-care practice, so that I have some boundaries around how much I can give and how much I can serve and how much I can help and uplift other people. And that's definitely an ongoing journey for me. I wanted to touch a little bit on addiction, because I know that you've spoken openly about addiction in the past. Has there been any big triggers for you during this period?
Yeah, I mean, being perfectly honest, I've spoken a little bit about my addiction in the past, but I've never really it's never been my key topic, if that makes sense. Even when we did the mental health and addiction kōrero, you had myself and Tania Jones, and I was like, cool, I'm all about mental health, and Tania's like, cool, I'm all about addiction, and I tried to kind of block it out a little bit. And I think it's because at the time I wasn't as open about it as I am now. And so, yeah, it's been a very rough time because you're at home and because there's not much to do. I was like, oh, well, I'll just chill out and have a drink. And then a drink led to another drink. And Monday this week, I realized that last week I had drunk like a whole box of vodka RTDs every single night. Not just one or two, like a whole box. I have spent so long trying to... and because I think, okay, one important thing I suppose to touch on is, so I openly admit now that I'm an alcoholic, and as soon as you say the word alcoholic, people have a misconception. They always go to the movies and think, oh, okay, that means he's not allowed to drink and he has to go to AA meetings, and that's the only version of an alcoholic there can be. For me, if my mental health is good, which is 90% of the time, alcohol's not a problem. I can enjoy a social drink, I can do all of that, and it's not a problem. It's a problem when it becomes a coping mechanism, and that happens when my mental health isn't well. So what was happening all last week is like I'm having these Zoom calls and putting all my energy, and then I had nothing left, and I just wanted to feel better. And I knew that, oh, if I have a drink, it'll start to help me feel better. And then it just kept going and going and going, and I found that I was just getting absolutely trashed every night to make myself feel better. And it wasn't until a couple of days I realized that I kind of was like putting out the rubbish, and I was just like, this is insanity, like this is next level. On top of that, like I'm someone that I used to be a full-time smoker. I got down to just being like an occasional smoker, and then I realized the other day that I'm back to smoking a pack a day without even realizing it. And being someone that has a degree in sports science, as a personal trainer, is passionate about health and well-being, it's like so, I suppose, embarrassing admitting all of this. But I guess the reason I want to talk about it is because, you know, there's this perception at the moment, like you just see so many people on Facebook and on social media saying like everything's great, everything's perfect, especially, and I don't mean to, you know, throw them under the bus, but especially like exercise and health professionals, you know, creating all these online workouts and doing all of this stuff. And I don't really see any of them talking about the fact that they're all finding it just as hard as us. And so a big thing with my social media this week has been admitting that I'm not okay, admitting that I've been smoking to, you know, deal with stress, and I've been drinking to deal with my anxiety, and that's really not healthy. But yesterday I went without a drink, I went without a smoke, and I woke up this morning and I felt so proud of myself, and I was like, I can do this. Yeah, I hadn't even realized I was back in that stage. Yeah.
That's so powerful, Shane, and I am so proud of you for your ability to bring awareness to it and pull yourself out of that and do something different. It takes so much courage and bravery, and you are such an inspiration to so many for being so honest and vulnerable and sharing your truth. And I think that's, like, you nailed it on the head. There's so much content on social media at the moment that's just like, everything's fine, everything's amazing, let's do this workout, let's do these 5 gratitude steps, let's, do a spiritual yoga session, and like, I'm here on some days and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is the last thing I can do right now. So it's just so cool to be able to really honestly reflect on what this time has meant for us and for you, and to be so open and sharing that. I'm really keen to understand it. I'm sure people that are listening are keen to understand as well. How do you pull yourself out of that? How did you bring awareness to it and realize, hey, actually, this isn't something that's serving me? And how did you figure out what steps to take to do a different behavior? Because you're still going to get to the end of the day and feel like you want to have some fun, like you just want to relax, you just want things to be quiet up here. So how do you go from using smoking and alcohol to choosing a better tool, I guess, to support you?
I think for me, like, a huge part of who I am as a person, what my business is about, everything like that, is, for starters, being like authentic. And so I guess, like, when I look at myself as a person, anytime what I'm doing doesn't line up with what I'm trying to get across to people, it makes me feel like such a hypocrite, and it makes me feel like really shit about myself, to be perfectly honest. And like I said, at the time, I wasn't like, there was a couple of times where I was like, oh, I'm drinking a box a day. Didn't even matter, because it felt like everyone is in the same buzz, everyone's like stuck at home. Oh, it is part of Kiwi culture, let's just get on the piss, jump on house party, have a good night, deal with everything else tomorrow. It wasn't until I realized that it was like affecting my mental health, and that I was drinking because I was unhappy, and then I became unhappy because I was drinking. And once I had that realization, I, once again, and it's something you touched on earlier, I went back to like what my non-negotiables are. Nice. And one of those for me is exercise. And for me, exercise can be anything active. Like you said, it could be a dance party, things like that. And I just realized that over the last few weeks, I completely lost my identity. Some of those things you can't help. Like, I can't go to work. I can't do the things that I would normally do. However, there's certain parts of me that no matter where I am and no matter where you're isolated, you can still do. So yesterday I was like, right, I'm just going to take a day out to think about what I can do to start to make some behavioral changes. It wasn't about fixing it overnight. So I'm not sitting here saying like, oh my God, I'm sober and I'm never having another cigarette. What I'm saying is I'm now aware of it, and my goal is to not get drunk every night. Didn't have a drink yesterday, haven't had one today. Really proud of myself for that. But going back to I suppose the non-negotiables. So I said to myself, get up in the morning, chuck on your running gear, go for a run. And I was just like, ugh, like yuck, like exercise. Oh, that's kind of where my mindset was at. And it just happened. I was like, a lot of the time when we're unhappy, it's hard to find happiness. However, we can remind ourselves what we're capable of. And so I went back through my, Facebook and my Instagram and just tried to find something to latch onto. And then I was like, oh, 6 months ago, I did a half Ironman. Like, I was getting up every morning and training for 3 hours. Yet this morning, I'm like, ugh, exercise.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And so I was like, I did that. I worked for that. No one else gave that to me. And it's just one foot in front of the other. And that was enough to go, okay, this run may not make me happy, but it'll be a step. And I was like, I'll see what happens. And I knew that I might go out and run 50 meters and just be like, no, I'm going back to bed. Ended up managing to run 5K. And when I got home, I didn't feel happy about it. I was sweaty and could barely breathe because I've been smoking, and I just felt like this chubby, bouncy, disgusting mess, but I did it. And that for me was just like such a huge feat. And then after that, it was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have an actual proper shower, and I'm going to attempt to make myself look nice, and I'm going to make breakfast. And I've just found throughout the day, because I've been concentrating on me and just me, those habits are coming back into play. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Now I need to remind myself that they're not, that non-negotiables aren't negotiable. Like, I need to get up. Some days I might not feel like running. Doesn't mean I can't exercise. I can walk. I can, you know, options are endless.
That's so powerful. It's really just thinking, I think what I'm learning from your talk is just that, like, it's not about finding the big fix. It's about taking small steps that, when they stack up, end up being the big change, and that you don't have to do all those things at once, that you can just start with a walk, or you could start with meditation, whatever feels good and right for you, to figure out that next stepping stone to the bigger picture.
Absolutely. It's all about looking at what you can achieve. So not what's going to make you happy, just what you can achieve that is going to be a positive influence on your mental health. So, for example, I could achieve getting drunk tonight, but not going to be a good influence on my mental health. Whereas I could, you know, once we've had this chat, I know that I'm going to debrief in my head. And so I'm like, well, I could sit here and then eventually I'd probably be like, oh, I'll just have a drink. Or I could go for a walk along the beach and get some fresh air. So it's like, it's looking at what my options are and just taking those little steps. And it's, once again, it's a hard time. We need to stop aiming for perfection and just taking it day by day. And that's all we can do.
That's so powerful. I love that. I'm a recovering perfectionist, and it is a really difficult thing, especially in moments like this, where I think, you know, it's quite overwhelming, the enormity of everything going on, and I feel like my locus of control is like this big. And so sometimes, as a recovering perfectionist, I think, oh, if I do this, this, and this, I'll create some control around the situation and find some peace. But for me, what I'm really noticing is that having everything stripped away and really having to sit with yourself in moments where you might have normally been able to work or distract yourself with friends or whatever else, you are a little bit, or I'm finding myself a bit uncomfortable in learning more about what's really sitting beneath all the distractions and what I've been avoiding working on internally. So yeah, I think it's really interesting when you talk about kind of parts of your identity in a way that have been stripped away. You know, I feel like this is an amazing opportunity for some reflection and understand, like, who am I without my work? Who am I without my labels? Who am I without my friends or whatever, you know, because those are all external things that sometimes validate our identity, when I think for me, I'm using this time to really journal and understand, well, who am I without those things? Who do I say I am? Who do I know I am? What are my beliefs that I can draw strength from, and that be my stability? Because in doing that, that's always with me. Whereas if it's always outside of me and like my work or like some next thing I'm involved with or whatever, that can get taken away. And so then am I not okay when they get taken away?
Yeah, and I've literally been sitting here for the last few seconds, like, trying not to giggle, because when you said, like, who am I without my career, I'm like, I know you, and I know myself, and I know how much we concentrate on work and everyone else. And so when that is stripped away, it's almost like, am I a person? Like, what do I do when I don't work? But it's also really important, you know, and that's the thing about this rāhui, is it's given us a lot of, like, yes, there's negatives, but it's all about that silver lining, I guess. And that is one of the key things, is it gives you an opportunity to go strip away all of that stuff. Who am I? What makes me tick? And I know I've had so many self-realizations during this time because I've still been working my butt off, and I've just realized that I actually don't have that many, how would I put it? I've lost a lot of the things over the last few years that I used to do to make myself happy that were kind of outside the box of my career. And so I've kind of got some things that I definitely want to get back into. And yeah, it's definitely eye-opening in such a good way. That's a real positive.
I love that. It's so cool to be able to reflect. And I think, yeah, when I first got kind of challenged with that, okay, well, how do I get to know me? That's like weird. I'm uncomfortable with it. Like freaking out, like sitting with all the chaos in my head. I'm like, no, I don't want to know you. It's too much. But like when I learned how to be with it, and when I learned, like, breath work for me has been an amazing tool to get to know myself, because I just follow this rhythm of breathing, and I might ponder on one question, like, who am I? And it's so powerful what comes up when you don't think about it. You're just focused on your breathing, and you really connect into your body and into your being of like, who am I? And so I just think I want to encourage anyone who's on here wondering, okay, well, yeah, that sounds good. How do I do that? For me, it's breath work. It's breathing in for 4, out for 4, and meditating on just one question and seeing what comes up through that. What's been a big tool to support you to get to know who you are?
Yeah, well, I think it's a big part of it has been me really reflecting in those awkward moments of where you, exactly like you said, it's like, oh, I don't want to get to know me. It's so much easier to look after everyone else. Like, if I'm looking after everyone else, I don't have to look after myself.
Yeah,
and
yes.
so it is like, for people like ourselves and for a lot of you out there, it is one of those really like uncomfortable things to sit in or places to be. And for me, I was like, oh, I'm going to start journaling. Like, that'll be a great thing to do.
Yeah.
And I started doing it on a piece of paper, and I was like, this isn't working, because I kept scribbling out and ripping it up. And then I started doing it
came through.
Yeah. And then I started doing it on my notepad on my phone, and I was like, oh, I'm living on my phone at the moment. I just want to get off it. And so I think for me, it's been just not so much journaling physically, but journaling mentally and actually thinking about stuff. I had this moment the other day where, like, my favorite song came on, and I just started dancing, and I went all out, like, you know, a little bit of a death drop, all of that sort of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, it was one of those moments where this like energy overtook me, and I was like, I'd almost completely forgotten that I used to be a drag performer and I used to be a dancer, and that was a huge part of who I am. And I was like, I don't do that anymore because I got too busy. And then I was like, so that for me was a huge epiphany. And so I was like, going forward, I was like, I need to make time for me, and I need to make time for the things that matter. So I guess for anyone listening, it's like, we get so caught up in what we should do, and instead of focusing on what we want or need to do. And so it really is like thinking, what makes my soul soar? What can I add into my life or bring back into my life or keep in my life that is going to make me just have that moment where I just feel that absolute overwhelming positivity. And I think for people like me and Gemma, you know, we've been, I suppose, in a situation where we've both been at rock bottom. We've both battled with addiction and mental health, and then we've turned our lives around. And so now there is this kind of immense pressure that we put on ourselves to be perfectionists. And so I guess a huge part of this recovering.
Perfectionist.
But a huge reason we wanted to have this conversation was the fact that we have hope and we have somewhere to go from this, because we know what it feels like to be in a bad place, and we know what it's like to work hard to get through that and to move on from it. Whereas if you're in a situation where you're in lockdown at the moment and you're experiencing feeling low or feeling stressed in a different way and you're not used to it, it can be absolutely like terrifying. And I suppose we wanted to, well, for me personally, I wanted to show people like, absolutely, I do my best to be a successful adult. But what does success look like? And the wheels can always fall off and you can always go back down. But I think for me, like, falling down is great because you get back up. And one thing I said to someone this morning was like, every time I hit the bottom, it gives me an opportunity to aim for a higher peak. And I think times like this is a really good opportunity to go, okay, what can I do better next time? It's not going to be perfect, just what can I improve on and what's going to help make this a little bit better for me?
I love that. That's so powerful. And I think it's also important to share that it's not that we're trying to be happy all the time. We're not trying to be positive all the time. I think you nailed it really well before, Shane. It's just those moments of joy. I can be feeling really down and out, and I can put on my favorite Spotify playlist, and I notice, like, physically my body's like hunched over, I've got my head down, I'm feeling a bit low, I'm feeling sad, I'm kind of beating myself up in my head, like everything's starting to play out, and I'm just like, oh, remember, you really like to dance and you like to sing. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just get my Spotify playlist and my Yui Boom ready. And then I put it on, and instantly, physically change, like my head lifts up, my shoulders come back, and I'm doing my thing, and I look like an idiot, and I don't care, because that's what's going to bring me joy in a moment and help shift that energy and remind me of other possibilities in that moment. Because I think sometimes it can feel like, when you feel those feelings of stress and overwhelm, that they're there forever. Sometimes we kind of catastrophize these moments, and they're just moments. We aren't going to be that forever. And so, I think that's just a really beautiful way to kind of draw on what you're talking there.
And it's just like the rahui, it's not enjoyable at the moment, but it's not here forever. And sometimes it can seem like it's going to go on forever. Like, I can't believe it's been 4 weeks, because now I'm like, where did that 4 weeks go? I was going to achieve a 6-pack and I was going to learn how to cook. And I'm like, I've learned how to eat and I drank a 6-pack, but that's okay. We have to laugh, we have to sing, we have to dance, we have to find those moments, and that is key.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
Now me and Gemma are going to transition into a lip sync for your life.
I've been watching RuPaul's Drag Race at night, every night, All Stars, and it is bringing me through. I'm like, this is what I want to watch before I go to sleep. I am so down for a lip sync battle, actually. Like, I can't even plant the seed, because I'm going to hold you to that, and we're going to do it. I want to ask you, Shane, just drawing on all your experience, where do you see, I mean, we've talked about some really cool things in terms of mental health and addiction and different ideas for kind of building up that foundation that supports you to make that one next step to make things better. What would you say, where do you see people really fall over when they're trying to integrate a new habit to strengthen their well-being? And what support or advice would you give people around that?
I think the one I see the most, and the one I used to do myself, is as soon as people try and implement, whether it's behavioral change or starting a new hobby or a new habit, whatever it might be, they go 0 to 100 straight away. So it's people going, I've never run in my life, but I'm going to go run 10K today. Or someone being like, oh, I don't like eating healthy, but I'm going to go to the supermarket and get $100 worth of fresh fruit and vegetables and go on this diet. So what happens is people tend to like jump into the deep end of the pool and try and like fix everything at once and achieve everything at once. And then afterwards they're like, oh, well, that didn't work too well, did it? And it's like, no, babes, it didn't. And I see that a lot at the moment. Like, people are going, cool, I've got 4 weeks. This is what I want to achieve. I know this because I was one of those people myself. But that's not really what this whole, I suppose, rahui energy is about. And so it's more like, if it is something that you want to change, if there's something you want to implement into your lifestyle, then that is awesome, because it is a great time for opportunity, growth, and development. But it's like, once again, just like me going for a run this morning, it's just one step at a time. Nothing changes overnight. You and me know that we spent years on ourselves trying to improve ourselves, and every day is a new journey and also a new battle. And so you've just got to really take it like inch by inch, do a little bit at a time. It's a bit like, how do you eat an elephant?
Oh, get out. This is my mantra for like, oh my gosh, get out. I didn't even know that you used that one too. That's so cool. Oh, sorry, I interrupted. Do you want to finish?
No, I said elephant, and then I was like, oh, I'm hungry again. But yeah, it really is like, you would never ever go out and try and achieve something straight away, no matter what it is. Everything is learning, and you know, it's about the whole, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall, things aren't going to go perfect, get back up, keep going, fall again, get another bruise. It's almost like, you know, when you break a bone, when that bone heals, it heals stronger than the bone was originally. And so it's actually going like, each time I make a mistake, it can help me move forward. And so that's what we have to do, really, is baby steps. And when it goes wrong, don't give up. That's it. Do not give up. Yeah, it may not be perfect and it may take ages, but that's the joy of life, I think, is just that constant kind of like upward slope and improving.
Yeah, that's so powerful, Shane. And I think for me, when I reflect on this, it's really, and you touched on it, it's what's the one thing? That's another question that I might use to support myself or some of my friends and whānau, is like, what's the one thing that I can change right now that would make the biggest difference? Rather than doing a life audit, rather than doing a full well-being plan with all the pillars and, you know, realizing all the things that I've fucked up and doing wrong, it's just kind of going, hang on, what's the one thing I could do that would make the most difference right now to support stronger well-being? And I'm going to do that one thing, and that's it. And that really helps, especially if you're a perfectionist or you got analysis paralysis or you got anxiety, to really just simplify it. Oh, I just have to do one thing, you know, like I can do one thing. That's okay. That's doable. And like you say, you stack that with other one things when you can and when it feels good and right. And you just keep picking yourself back up. I want to jump onto some other questions that I've got here for you, and probably got 5 or 10 more minutes before I've got to go to mum duties. What would you say are the 5 most important things to strengthen well-being?
See, it's quite interesting because I do a lot of seminars and sessions around well-being. And so my normal answer would be around te whare tapawhā, and then also looking at whenua. But the thing is, at the moment, that's all a little bit, I suppose, thrown out of place, because when we look at whenua, that's like our roots, our place we belong, and a lot of people aren't able to be in that place that makes them connect to that at the moment. Things like taha tinana, like everyone's like, oh, who cares, the gym's closed, like, yeah, that's cool, but if you've got someone who all they concentrate on is weights, or they have specific equipment they need to be able to achieve the things they need to do, if they don't have that, then it makes it really hard. Same thing, like, all of it's changed slightly, and so I guess that would normally be my answer. However, at the moment, I think it's like really stripping it back and looking at the basics. And I just thought about, like, what are the 5 things I need in my life right now? And I was like, okay, I need sleep.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. If you don't sleep, you're not going to be well. It just has way too much effect on us physically and emotionally and mentally. Also had hydration, which once again is just a very basic thing. Are you about to show me your water bottle?
I'm about to have a drink of water.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Mine's bigger. Continuing. So sleep, hydration, food. Like, our body needs fuel. We need to nourish it. And once again, don't try and go on some crazy diet tonight. It's just more about going, am I eating? Am I getting energy in so that I have the energy to deal with everything? Also looking at activity. So when I say activity, that's not exercise. So once again, activity could be, if you love to draw, then draw. If you love to sing, sing. If you love to dance, dance. Do what you need to do to just feel that like happy place. And I think the last one, which is really important, is communication. At the moment, communication is key. No one can help us if we're not talking. We can't help others if they're not talking. I'm isolated completely by myself. I'm a one-person bubble. And I know that if I didn't have engagement and communication, I wouldn't be sitting here right now having this conversation, because I'd be going, sorry, Gemma, I'm in bed eating another bag of chocolate, so I can't do this. And so it's really just stripping it back and going, right now, life isn't perfect. Life isn't what we know it to be. And so why don't I just kind of concentrate on the basics? And if that means getting out of bed in the morning, and if your win for that day is having a shower, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it might be the fact, like, yes, like, I'm not wearing track pants today, and I'm so proud of that. You know?
That's so good. Yeah.
I'm like, that's my new uniform.
It doesn't need to be some big, amazing, spiritual journey of huge meditation sessions. And, you're just talking about getting back to the basics, which I think is so important and such a strong foundation for us to then think about those other things. If you're not getting good sleep, you're going to be agitated and pissed off in a day. You're not going to be in a space where you're in any way, shape, or form empowering yourself to do anything further to enhance that well-being. Hey, look, I can see we've got a bunch of people on the call. If you've got any questions for Shane and I, now would be the time to drop them in the comments. We're going to be wrapping up soon. I've got one more question, Marlon, from you. Oh, sorry, you go.
Say, I can't see the comments, so feel free to talk trash if you need to. We love a bit of entertainment.
Hang on, sorry, I've just got a weird thing happening. No, you're back. Okay, so last question from me, Shane. How do we support our whānau experiencing mental distress at the moment? We've talked about how we might manage ourselves to support stronger well-being. How can we support others?
I would first start off with, I guess, the what not to do. And that is the token text message, Facebook Messenger, phone. Hi, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Because if someone has admitted that they're unwell or is in that space, it's just, I mean, you'd probably know from experience, it comes across so condescending. It's like, hi, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need me to like fix your life for you? It makes you shut down more. What I've found has been great is I've got people in my life that know if I want to talk, I'll talk, and we're talking deep stuff. But if not, we've got really open lines of communication, but it's just talking in general. So I've been having like FaceTime chats and things like that all throughout the last few weeks. And there was one day that I've got 3 really close friends who I call sisters, and the 4 of us decided to have lunch together. And that was something that we used to do a lot. And so I remember afterwards, I just felt like my cup had been filled and I was so bubbly. Not one of them had asked me about my mental health. Not one of them asked me how I was doing. It was just having that communication and having that conversation. And so I think it's really just making sure that you're keeping those lines of communication open, letting people know you're there, but not forcing it on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think something I want to add to that as well is the whole let me know if there's anything I can do to help is really I've found for me at times really frustrating, because it's like I know that I'm not doing good, and you're now wanting me to try and figure out how I can help myself, and then tell you how you can help me to help myself. I'm just like, I don't need to think about how you can help me. I want you
Yeah.
to just show up and be a friend. And so I think we're really thinking about, what does it mean to show up and be a friend right now for people who really need it? What does it look like to just push the call button and call someone and say kia ora? What does it look like to say, hey, I'm jumping on house party tonight at 6, would love to play a game with you? Or writing someone a letter even, and just being really creative and expressive about what they mean to you, and really sharing and shedding a light on what you're grateful for in them. It could be painting a picture and sending it to them. It's like, friendship is a doing word. And so I think for
It's
me,
an action.
yeah, it totally is. And so I think when we think about our whānau that are experiencing mental distress, it's thinking, how can I live out friendship as a doing word, and it not just be this like heart reply to a story, or a let me know if there's anything I can do to help. That is like, no, it's dropping food off. It's an action. So yeah, does that land for you? Do you want to add anything else to that?
Oh, I'm just loving this, Dr. Major. I'm like, it completely makes sense. I just like had one of those aha moments that friendship it's an action. It's not something, but like, I know for me, a huge part of, once again, looking at those moments. So even though I've been down, that couple of minutes or that 30 seconds where I've felt better is when someone has tagged me in a meme, or sent me a horrendous video, or just something that they know, because they know I love to laugh. And so no matter how bad things are, and they might be horrific memes or anything like that, but, it's better to giggle and then go back to feeling not great than not giggle at all, if that makes sense. And so I completely agree with that. It's just going, okay, this person doesn't want to sit down and have a Dr. Phil moment with me, and that's totally okay. But what would we do if this person was okay? What is our normal friendship? How do I make them laugh? How do I make them go, oh my God, you're so annoying, like, shut up? I mean, if some of the stuff I've been sent on Messenger over for the last few weeks has just absolutely lit my life up. And like I said, it hasn't been enough to fix the world, but every little bit helps. And once again, it's that whole step by step.
That's so powerful. Oh, I feel like we could go on for so long talking about so many things.
What, you and me?
I can see there's been some really cool comments. Thank you, Cara, for jumping on and for sharing what this has meant for you. We're here to have these conversations, no matter how old you are. This isn't about age. I think these are things that resonate no matter how old you are. We all experience distress from time to time, and this is a crazy circumstance. So, hey, look, I just want to say thank you to you, Shane, for always being so authentic and raw and honest in your approach, and for always finding a way to use your story to teach a lesson or share an insight or provide some hope and inspiration. And I'm just in awe of the human being that you are. I'm very grateful to call you a friend. So thanks for jumping on the live tonight. And thanks everyone who's tuned in. I really appreciate you prioritizing this conversation as we go into the weekend. And if you're on the replay, drop a comment below and let us know that you were here. Have an awesome weekend, everyone. Anything you want to say, Shane, before we wrap up?
Oh, I just want to say a huge thank you for having me. I think it was quite hilarious. This was all very last minute. I messaged Gemma this morning going, hey, we should have a catch up soon. And she was like, oh my God, I dreamt about having a catch up with you. What should we talk about? And then at the same time, we both were like, we should have an authentic, honest conversation about mental health. And we were like, oh, what about 4:30 today? And it's like, let's do it. So I know for me, it's been great to get some stuff off my chest and have a conversation. And it always makes me feel better doing it, I suppose, in a public platform, simply because hopefully someone out there, some of you listening, will go, hey, I'm not okay, and that's okay. Or you might have had a laugh, or just something different to, your mediocre lockdown days. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast. I feel great.
Of course, and I'm so following up on a lip sync battle. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll be back next week with some more Q&As.